The movie begins with a lab mouse in a container, and a lab technician comes in to cut its head off. We then switch to a Blackwood Pharmaceutical Company video, welcoming the clinical trial participants for their new drug. That's where we meet Claire, who just got to the room she's assigned to. She lays down to relax and her chatty new roommate Allison walks in. Allison's nervous chatter is so annoying, Claire asks her to stop talking so she can take a nap before they get started. Just then there's an announcement for all the participants to meet in the exam room. This is where they meet Dr. Burke, who is supervising the trial. She explains that this is a safety study for the new drug and the dosage begins at 25 milligrams and ends at 85 by the end. She lets them know that no one is allowed outside and they'll be confined to this floor for the duration. As they start administering the first doses, Claire seems to be having second thoughts, but she takes the drug anyway. They go to the cafeteria to eat and Claire ignores her new roommate Allison and sits with Paul and Ray. These two have done this many times. Ray asks Claire if this is her first time because he hasn't seen her before. She tells him she needs the money and she didn't have a lot of other options. Paul says, young, broke, and desperate, that's how they get you. When Vanessa leaves the table, they tell Claire that she's had a bad childhood and she's kind of an oddball. Like all the participants, Claire is going through an array of tests, and by the end she's exhausted. That's when Allison walks in to show her a picture of her cat. Allison keeps talking and is annoying Claire so much that she tells her to shut up, and just then she gets nauseous from the drug. She's greeted by Amir, who is also throwing up. He informs her that he's a med student that applied for a summer internship with this pharmaceutical company, hoping to land a job in the future, but now he's starting to wonder what he got himself into. That night, Claire is tossing and turning and can't sleep. She decides to walk around the facility, and she finds the rest of the participants grouped together all having the same problem. Amir informs Dr. Burke about the group's insomnia. She says she's done this so many times, nothing surprises her. Let's just see how long it lasts. In the morning, they go through another battery of medical exams. The group has been awake for 30 hours now. Dr. Burke is on the phone with the company executives voicing her concerns with this trial. When she tells her that their brains are growing during the same MRI scan, the senior vice president jumps on the line and asks her to repeat what she said. Dr. Burke meets with the group and tells them that the parameters of the trial have shifted, and now they're only interested in how long they can stay awake. The dosage was then tripled. Allison, seeing Claire is stressed out, wants to help and teaches her the trick that she learned to help her when she's overwhelmed. She tells her she plays a game of Tetris in her head and hums the tune. Claire says stop, it's annoying, but Allison says that's good, that means it's working, and they share a laugh together. They increase the dose again and some of the participants refuse to take it. Dr. Burke tells the group that she understands their apprehension and anyone who wishes to leave may do so, but the company says anyone who stays to the end will receive $30,000. Everyone is celebrating except for Amir and Claire. Later that night, they have a party. Then suddenly everyone is sleepy. Dr. Burke contacts the company executives in an attempt to stop the trial. She tells them that their immune systems have gone haywire. They tell her they can't stop now and to keep upping the dosage and see what happens. The group is sitting around talking about what they're going to do with the $30,000. Claire says she's probably going to find an apartment, but when Allison says we can be roommates, Claire says, I don't see us communicating when this is over. Don't you have any real friends? Allison is hurt by that statement and leaves. Amir sneaks into one of the offices to use one of the computers to find out what's happening and decides to copy some of the files. While the group is watching television, Claire notices Allison sitting by herself. She decides to go over to her to apologize and notices Claire has fallen asleep. She starts having convulsions and then she dies. Dr. Burke sees this and then the company goes into a security breach lockdown. They all try to escape, but Dr. Burke gets caught in the door. When they finally pull her out, it's too late. She says, I'm sorry, and then it's over for her. An automated voice over the loudspeaker says lockdown complete and gives them 24 hours for the lockdown to be lifted. Amir shows up and tells everyone that he snuck into Dr. Burke's office and saw their scans. He said he knew something wasn't right, and if they go to sleep, they'll die. Amir gives everyone smelling salts and tells them not to take stimulants or even drink coffee. Everyone is doing what they can to stay awake, while Paul and Ray are making videos about the lawsuit that they're going to file. Amir thinks that since they're not taking the drug anymore, that the symptoms should reverse. He gives Claire a brain scan and finds out that just the opposite is happening. Ray is trying to keep himself awake, but he used up all the smelling salts and is trying to get them from everyone else. Meanwhile, Amir is in the lab and he starts hallucinating. Marcus walks in on Claire to see if she's alright and tells her everything is going to be fine. She says, I wish I had your confidence. He tells her a story about when he had to survive in the wilderness, and that you'd be surprised what you can do when you have to. Soon after, Marcus is in the bathroom and he starts hallucinating, hearing sounds that aren't there. He wanders off into the darkness of his mind, thinking he's leaving the facility, but in reality he died in his sleep. They've been awake over 100 hours now, and Claire, still trying to stay awake, decides to burn her hand on the stove, hoping the pain will keep her from sleeping. Claire comes up with a plan to break through the wall, but Amir tells her they're in a basement. It won't work the way this facility is made. They try to do it anyway, but when they get to the other side of the concrete, they realize that there's another wall made of steel. Ray, who's starting to lose his mind, wants to know how Amir knew that they wouldn't be able to get through the wall. Talks everyone into believing that he's already working for the company, and he knows more than what he's saying. Claire goes to see Amir, and Amir gives her a note for her and the others explaining that he caused the lockdown while he was trying to copy files from the computer. Then he tries to go to sleep to end his life, but Claire won't let him. She reminds him of some of the things he said earlier, which gives him an idea to make something that could stop the blood flow to their brains to give them more time. Paul tells Claire that they can't trust Amir, but she's not buying it. Then the lights go out. Claire has a panic attack, and they end up in the lab waiting for Amir to return. When he does, they want to know where he was when the lights went out. He says he was looking for fuses. Then Ray walks in and punches Amir. They tie him up, and Ray, believing he knows more than what he's saying, decides to torture him to get the information out of him. Ray wants to know if Amir is working for Blackwood. Claire says he has a cure. Amir says it's not a cure, it's more like something that'll give them more time. They can cook it up and he'll walk them through it. When Ray says he's not taking anything this guy makes, Claire says she'll take it. While they're cooking up Amir's solution, Vanessa and Ray don't believe that Amir is on the drug, and they plan to give him a sedative to see if he'll fall asleep. Their plan is to wait for Claire to be distracted so they can give Amir the sedative. But as she's walking toward Amir with the syringe, we hear a bottle break, and Vanessa turns around to look to see her own body on the ground. She doesn't understand that she fell asleep, and she's passed away already. Claire goes to see how much time they have left. She's real sleepy and reaches for her smelling salts and passes out. She starts to hallucinate, but is able to get to her smelling salt before it's too late. When she gets up, she finds a secret room. She gets Paul to help her break down the door that uncovers an autopsy room, and in the back they think they've found an elevator. Meanwhile, Amir is hallucinating that he's speaking with Dr. Burke, who is telling him that everyone has turned on him and he needs to get the knife on the floor to take control of the situation. Ray finds the note that Amir left. Meanwhile, Claire and Paul are at the elevator thinking that's a way out. Claire wants to go and get everyone else, but Paul believes they should think about themselves and leave on their own. Ray gets back to the lab and lets Amir know he's seen the note. They hear Amir scream. Ray gets a scalpel in order to torture Amir, but Amir breaks free just in time and takes Ray out. When they get back to the lab, they see what happened, but Amir's hallucination tells them there's 2 more left to take out. While they're trying to escape, Paul closes the door behind him, trapping her with Amir. She fights with him in the MRI room, and a magnetism from the machine yanks the knife out of his hand, and Claire is able to escape. Paul hits the button and runs into the would-be elevator. When the door closes, it gets really hot, and he realizes this is a crematorium, not an elevator. Exhausted from the chase, Amir passes out just as the lockdown ends. The door opens up and a company security team walks in. Amir sees the weapons and realizes what's about to happen. Claire hears the gunshot, sees the security team has taken out Amir, and she hides. Claire realizes that they're exterminating everyone, so she runs to the hallway where all the body bags are, wipes Amir's blood on her face, and gets in a body bag to get transported out that way. The men put the bodies in a van. She starts to have a panic attack in the body bag, so she starts to sing the Tetris song that Allison told her about. She gets out of the bag and the drivers see her and they panic and crash. The van flips over and she's able to kick open the door and free herself. We later find her in a hospital listening to a news broadcast where the pharmaceutical company is blaming everything on Dr. Burke.